Allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mandy, would you please call the roll?
Vanstra.
Yes.
Branderhorst. Here. Butler.
Here.
Hopkins.
Here.
Van Strylen.
Here.
And Carl Stone is absent.
City Council has adopted a code of civility. As elected officials, we pledge to promote civility through extending respect to others, listening to understand, disagreeing without disrespect, engaging collaboratively, and speaking up to address incivility. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and broadcast for Pella TV. Anyone who speaks to council, please approach that podium and the microphone before you speak so that those listening at home can hear your comments and see you on camera. Can I get a motion for approval of the tentative agenda?
So moved.
Support.
Van Strylen, Branderhorst, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Branderhorst.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Vanstra.
Yes.
Motion passed. I would like to reappoint Trevor Nickel to the Airport Committee. Trevor was initially appointed to this committee on December of 2021, attending 25 of 27 meetings held during his term. If approved, Trevor's new 6-year term would expire on January 1, 2032. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support.
Van Strylen, Branderhorst, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Branderhorst.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Vanstra.
Yes.
Motion passed. This time we'll discuss an appointment of an Economic Development Review Committee. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to explain this item. For those in attendance and those watching at home on Pella Fiber, I'd like to direct your attention to the big board for a brief presentation on this item. Mayor DeWard stated what this appointment would be is the establishment of an Economic Development Review Committee. This is also associated with item H3 on tonight's agenda, which is the city's economic development policy that the City Council will be considering later on this evening. Now, as far as the committee memberships and the overall, rather, let's take the first step. The overall purpose of this committee is to make recommendations to the City Council regarding any economic development requests that the city receives. Now, this will be a subcommittee of the City Council. The meetings will be public, that we do post on this as well. And as far as the composition of the membership, these are the elected officials that reached out to me that expressed interest in serving on the committee as well. The committee will be staffed by city administration. And again, what the ultimate purpose of this is to make recommendations to council on any type of economic development request the city receives. But it is important to note that all incentive approvals would remain, that authority and approval would still be required by the full council. So with that, Mr. Mayor, we are recommending approval of the committee this evening.
All right, can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support.
Branderhorst, Hopkins, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Branderhorst.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Vanstra.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Motion passed. This time we have an opportunity for a public forum. Anyone wishing to address council regarding any agenda item, please step forward to the microphone, state your name and address, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening. Bruce Skibout, 760 218th Place, Pella, Iowa. I appreciate the opportunity to address this body here. I was encouraged after reading and understanding that the proposed traffic tool over at on Oskaloosa Street was, I don't know if it was tabled, but was not, further action was not taken on it. That same thing was proposed about 10, 15 years ago, and it failed to move forward for lack of funds, if my memory serves me correct. There was other more pressing things. I see it up again tonight, and I admire the persistence, and hence, that's why I'm standing here before you tonight. I've been here this is my fourth time. I know there are other folks that have been and have addressed this same issue. And this is what is happening on Washington Street. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to do something. I know that there's been talk of a study that has gone on for quite some time. I don't know if there is a study. It's probably on the top shelf collecting a lot of dust. But there are several pedestrian. We need to deal with the pedestrian traffic on that street. We have provisions made. We can get across. The old railroad bridge was designated for that. The street itself will, I mean, if people have an accident on the car is one thing, but I'm really concerned about pedestrians on that street. I see it day in and day out. I know I travel it a lot, but I have I'm very concerned, and I would hope that we could look and do something with that before a fatality or an accident happens. And then we just need to address that, please. Please give it some due consideration. Thank you.
Bruce, I just want to make a statement. I admire your persistence on this issue. And I'm seeing, and particularly last week, saw an increase of pedestrians, especially young people, using the street as a bike trail. And that was very alarming to me. In fact, I even got some pictures, and because as a driver, it's scary, and as a pedestrian, I'm sure it has to be terrifying. So again, I want to thank you for the reminder, because we do need to do something, and sooner rather than later.
Yeah, Lynn, I guess I just don't understand the hesitancy in this. This is such a need. I don't know if there's a right-of-way that is going to be a problem, or, you know, you have the old railroad bed that you could probably get back to.
Right.
And cross the street ahead of that, or I don't know. But please address it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, but it gets busier and busier all the time.
Okay, anyone else?
Anna Rupert, 1104 P Street. Hi, I am a resident of the neighborhood that will be directly affected by the Imagine More Urban Renewal project. I appreciate the effort and ingenuity that has gone into addressing Pella's housing needs, and I also appreciate the role that Central College plays in our community. My comments are not about opposing growth or the college. They are about asking whether this proposal is the right solution for housing challenges identified by the Marion County Development's contracted housing assessment done in 2024, and whether it's an appropriate use of the public resources. The city's presentation describes this project as a partnership that benefits everyone. Central leases land it already owns to developers to build approximately 1,350 rental units and 120,000 square foot of commercial land. The city would eventually gain taxable property from land that is currently tax exempt. So I certainly see the appeal of all that land to develop and the benefit of a beloved institution and the tax revenue that would be gained. My concern is whether the public is being asked to assume a level of risk that is proportional to the public benefit. I read the 2024 Marion County Housing Assessment, and if I'm reading it correctly, it identified senior housing, followed closely by single-family homes, as the community's highest need for the next decade. It only estimated a demand for 690 additional rental units, and that was for all of Marion County, not just Pella. So when I hear a proposal for 1,350 rental units, that number seems a bit high. And that raises an important question: are we building the housing for our community needs, or simply the housing that's easiest to develop and profit off of? And at what cost to its citizens? I believe a lot of attention is being given to the rental vacancy rate that is below optimal. The survey shows it's at 1.2% vacancy instead of a healthier 5%. But I wonder if that reflects a lack of rental units or a lack of flexible and affordable renting options. Many rentals in Pella require year-long leases, which may not meet the needs of people relocating or work or relocating for work or seeking temporary housing. So before committing significant public resources, I believe it's prudent to understand the problem that we're trying to solve. And I noticed that the survey did not evaluate whether those low vacancy rates were related to annual leases or not. I also believe the city should carefully evaluate whether public financial assistance is truly necessary for this project. If TIF is justified because the project would not move forward without it, residents deserve to understand why. And if we're asking taxpayers to partner in a project of this scale, I believe it should look at the long-term financial condition and future housing demand of its development partners. Slide 13 tonight states that Central has analyzed its need for future housing. Public enrollment data, however, shows that Central College's enrollment has been on a steady decline over the last couple decades, and Central itself is saying that portions of its campus need redevelopment. They have sold off buildings and torn down others in recent years rather than deal with the cost to repair them. Those facts don't necessarily argue against the project, but they do warrant careful due diligence before making substantial public commitment. Finally, I hope that we will all consider the long-term impacts on surrounding neighborhoods like mine, who, according to the master plan, will be surrounded by parking lots and multi-story units. A development of this size could negatively affect traffic, infrastructure, neighborhood character, and property value. This impact deserves the same level of consideration as the potential economic benefits. So instead of simply imagining more, I hope that we will also reimagine what we already have by investing in housing solutions that more closely match the needs identified in our own housing assessment and protecting the long-term interests of the entire community. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else?
Trevor Nickel, 1102 6th Street, Sully, Iowa. We might be about 10 minutes late on this, but you guys just approved me for the airport committee, and I told Mike that I'd be willing to serve another 6 years. And I have served since 2001. Thank you guys, what you heard there. We've had completed projects. I think during that time, the ramp expansion was completed and the blacktop on the road to the entrance road. Both of those projects were well needed, and appreciated that we could accomplish that. There was, however, a lot of frustrations. Just over that 4 years of the committee not being listened to and kind of falling on deaf ears, not using the committee appropriately. We are all a volunteer committee, just an advisory committee, obviously. But I hope, as my term goes another 6 years, that you would listen to our committee, that would use our committee as it's supposed to be used, that you would reach out to us if you need airport questions or concerns, or if it relates, anything that relates to the airport. And so I don't want another 6 years of frustration, because I'm not really wanting to go through that again. But I work at the airport. I've been at the airport for a long time. I do want things to improve out there, and I'm willing to volunteer my time to accomplish that. So just moving forward, I would hope that we are listened to, and not saying that we get everything we want, but that we are considered, that it doesn't stop at city staff and doesn't go beyond that you guys hear what we need also. I think I've sent a couple letters now on specific issues to you guys, and got a couple responses on one of those, so I appreciate the responses. It's good to hear that you received the letter, and that just to that in general. So just looking forward, hopefully we can work together and accomplish more going forward. So
Appreciate those comments and that advice.
Yeah. Thank you, Trent.
Anyone else?
Good evening, Ron Rosenboom, 510 East First Street. I'll make this short. I see you're the intersection of 240th and Oskaloosa Streets up again. Thought that was a washout when you was in DC, Mr. Mayor, but I guess we need to bring it back up since you're here for it. All I have to say on that is, why don't you check with Urbandale and see how they like their roundabouts. And I strongly suggest that each and every one of you get in semi and go drive around a roundabout with a 53-foot truck loaded and see how fun they are. It would be really ugly seeing a Vermeer piece of equipment sitting in your tulip in your roundabout on the east end of town. As far as Bruce's comment on the west end of town, y'all needed to put them houses out there, but you didn't figure out how you was gonna get everybody to them houses. No sidewalks, nothing. You just wanted to put a bunch of houses out there so a certain few people could make a lot of money. As far as the airport commission goes, I would like to think that you guys could step up to the plate a little better than Oskaloosa and finally put this poor thing out of its misery and the taxpayers' money that has been going. I don't have a clue, and you probably don't either, of how much taxpayer money and the city of Pella money and Oskaloosa money has been spent on it. And I know everybody goes, well, we're gonna get reimbursed by the FAA. Yeah, get out your checkbook, FAA, and start paying the bills. So, thanks. We'll see you again. Yes, Lynn?
Ron, I do appreciate you coming and speaking, because I did address truck traffic at the last
Yes.
meeting, and I had said to several people, I wish that someone that drove one of those trucks would come into Chambers. So I appreciate you making that come true for me, because that is a concern of mine. And from someone who has driven truck and continues to drive truck, I will take that recommendation seriously.
All right, thank you.
And as far as the airport goes, we know exactly how much money the city of Pella is.
Okay, oh, good, good. So you could go ahead and give that out.
So that's, when you say we don't know,
Oh,
you're
well,
wrong.
that's awesome, Mr. Mayor.
Mike
Mr.
does a
Dardini,
really
what is
good
that
job of
number?
accounting for it.
What is that number, Mr.
Well,
Dardini?
we're not talking about it now. We do know.
So,
We do know
we talking about it when?
at the appropriate time.
At the,
We-
what is the
reason why
appropriate
we're
time?
not on anybody's-
When do you call the appropriate time? Just throw it out there, what is the number, and then everybody will know, and it's over with.
It's been discussed many times, so. the
And
numbers-
I bet it's still the same answer, appropriate time.
Anyone else? And by the way, the city of Pella didn't put one house out there. We did, the city of Pella did not put one house out on the west side.
I didn't say city of Pella.
You said, you addressed us,
A few people.
you addressed us and said you guys wanted to put these houses out there. We didn't put any houses out there. It's all private development. Anyone else?
Good state.
Anyone else? All right. Can I get a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? Sorry, it was Brandon Horst and Stryland. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Branderhorst?
Yes.
Van Strylen?
Yes.
Vanstra?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes. Motion passed. We're going to enter a public hearing on the proposed Imagine More Community Urban Renewal Plan. Mike, please explain.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to. Once again, I'd like to direct everyone's attention to the big board for presentation on this item. And this item tonight, we actually have on the agenda, I believe it's 1B and 1C, a resolution which would approve the proposed urban renewal plan, as well as an ordinance for the urban renewal plan. I'll explain that a little bit later on in the presentation as well. But when we look at the urban renewal plan, as we previously discussed this request, I believe in early June of this year, the urban renewal plan is the first step in the development process when the city council is looking to redevelop an area within our community. And the best way to look at an urban renewal plan is it's a long-term plan for future potential economic growth through the community. In this case, urban renewal plan covers the next 23 years. So this is a long-term concept plan when you talk about urban renewal plans. And it's also required under state of Iowa law as well. A little bit of background on how we got to this point is recently Central College has analyzed their need for housing on their campus, and they believe a portion of their campus could be utilized for further economic development within the community to support the housing needs of the city of Pella, and also to enhance the quality of life. Now, when they've looked at it, the initial concept plan, and I want to stress, like all urban renewal plans, these are concept plans. They're long-term development plans, but you have to start somewhere on it. So the concept plan had up to 1,350 rental units. That's if the complete campus, or not the complete portion of the campus is completely developed, along with an additional 120,000 square feet of land dedicated for commercial development. Now, if that occurs on it, it's estimated that could be an investment of approximately $345 million in private investment within our community, which would be very significant as well. Now, one of the key points to keep in mind when we talk about urban renewal plans and redevelopment of a portion of the Central College campus is right now all the property and buildings on the campus are tax exempt. If those buildings were redeveloped with taxable property, that would eventually be a new tax valuation to support the city of Pella as well. So they would pay property taxes, and that's a key item to keep in mind when we talk about urban renewal plans and potential development agreements in the future as well. So let's go ahead, please, Heidi. Now, we do have a map of the proposed urban renewal plan that we have listed up on the big board. It is important to note the actual redevelopment area of the Central College campus is significantly less than this. The redevelopment area is about 35 acres, so it's a portion of the campus. The key item to consider when you consider urban renewal plans is they have to be whole parcels on there. You cannot split parcels. When you look at the Central College campus, I'm sure our Central College representatives probably correct me on this, but it's made up of a few large parcels on the campus. I'm going to say roughly 4 to 5. Might be a little bit higher, but that's still a relatively low number of parcels when you look at the southern territory. So when we look at the urban renewal plan, it would span a majority of the campus. However, the actual development area is considerably less than this as well. Now, as a part of this process, if you recall, we stated that urban renewal plans at their heart, they're planning documents. That's what starts, that's what's required under Iowa law. What's also required under Iowa law is conformance with the city's comprehensive plan. And as a part of that compliance check that we have is the Planning and Zoning Commission is required to review the urban renewal plan for compliance with the city's comprehensive plan. This was reviewed by the commission on June 22nd, and for that very fact, looking at what's being proposed with the urban renewal plan, future economic development in this area, as well as conformance with the city's comprehensive plan, and the commission unanimously approved and felt it was in alignment with the city's comprehensive plan. We also held a consultation on June 22nd for the affected taxing entities. So this would be mainly the Marion County as well as Pella Community School District, and we did not receive any comments, and I believe there wasn't any intent as well. So as far as the documents that we have this evening, as far as the resolution, that resolution which we are recommending approval on would approve the urban renewal plan. Once again, this doesn't obligate the city to any of the projects mentioned in the urban renewal plan, but it's the planning document that's required under Iowa law that you have to have. So this formally approves the urban renewal plan. The ordinance that we're going to be considering this evening, the easiest way to look at the ordinance is if there's development on the Central College campus, the city has to have a mechanism to capture the incremental property taxes that would be generated on the campus. Our means of doing that is to establish an ordinance on it, which would identify this area that's listed up here under an ordinance. So any type of additional property taxes that are generated on the property, the city would have the ability to capture it if we could in the future, and that's important for economic development purposes. So these would be economic incremental taxes that would be generated by future buildings that would be taxable as opposed to tax exempt. That ordinance would only go into effect if the city council ever approved a development agreement for this property on there. And we talked earlier this evening, if you recall, the council established an economic development review committee, and we're going to be considering an economic development policy later on this evening. Both of these are intended for transparency purposes. The Economic Development Review Committee would review future development agreements, not only on the Central College campus, but also anywhere in the city of Pella as well. Those meetings will be open to the public, and there'll be a considerable amount of detail available as well. So when we look at that, there's more to the process if the actual development would occur the way we've established this. It'd have to align with the city policies that we're considering later this evening. And it would also have to have a recommendation from the Economic Development Review Committee before it's considered by the Pella City Council as well. So it's a little bit of our process, but once again, keep in mind this is a long-term plan. It's a concept plan. It's required under Iowa law. It doesn't obligate the city to anything. Where the rubber hits the road is when you start considering development agreements that would actually redevelop a portion of the Central College campus as well. So with that, Mr. Mayor, that concludes the staff presentation on both of these items. Be more than happy to answer any questions the council may have on these items.
All right, thank you, Mike. Any written comments received?
No written comments.
Okay. Council comments?
So I have a question on, is there currently any private ownership in the urban development area?
That, we believe all the parcels are currently owned by Central College.
All of the parcels?
That's what we believe, yes.
On the master plan, though, there are some residential properties that are not, I mean, that's not the city's map here, but it has my neighbor who's residential parking lot, it has a couple other residential owned parking lots. And in fact, I think that's slide 16 tonight with the rezoning of East Street, the two clusters there. I have my property rezoned as institutional, which I'm confused about.
The campus that we had right here, I believe, has the public right-of-ways that we have in the Central College campus as far as the parcels on it. So that was the proposed urban renewal plan that we have.
So did we did rezone something to institutional, was that?
That was a separate action. There was two rezonings, and I'm going off memory off the top of my head. I believe they were in June. One of them was proposed by Central College on it. That was, I believe, to rezone a property from R2 to R3. And I'll probably get these a little bit backward, but one of them had a 5-plex on it. And the R2 zoning was from 2-family residential up to multifamily residential. So we were simply recognizing how the property was utilized through the years. The second rezoning that was approved by the city council would have been by Mark Vandenoord, and it was a parcel that directly abutted the parcel. And it's very similar. There was also a multifamily plex on that parcel as well. So it's simply recognizing how the parcel's been used over the years.
Okay.
I had a little bit of, are we done with that?
Well, one more question would be, when will we start collecting property taxes on the bare land? On Central College's land, is it?
Well, currently, this is an important concept. It's institutional right now, zoned.
Yeah.
For the development process, the actual development process, there's going to be several other necessary steps to do that on there, including potentially rezoning the property as well, and also changing the classification by the assessor on it. Now, there may be parcels on here that are currently paying property taxes. It depends on how the property is used. For instance, rental property could very well be paying property taxes by the college right now. But to answer your question, when will we start collecting property taxes? I would envision, and the intent of this plan is when we have a portion of the campus that wants to be redeveloped, the city council approves a development agreement on that as well, and then that building is actually built and the city collects property taxes on it at that time. So that could be a few years in the future, it could be several years in the future. It's really dependent upon development.
So is there any money in the next year that will be going into this fund under 1C? You're going to take all the tax levied on the property located within the Imagine More Community Urban Renewal Area and put it in a separate fund to pay for the improvements, the way I see this.
Mm-hmm.
So is there any money now that will be going into that fund?
Okay, that's a very good question, Councilmember Butler. And one of the things that's important to understand, TIF, what the ordinance does is it freezes the base values right now. So if there's properties that are in this plan that are currently paying property taxes, it freezes those levies. All current taxing entities are currently going to get their current property taxes that they receive now. What the intent is for new buildings that are taxable, that we'd be able to capture those incremental taxes, a portion of those on it. So this would be for new buildings, new taxes that are generated, but the base value would be frozen on the plan.
Okay. So you called it a TIF in the first slide up here,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not called a TIF here in the ordinance. Is there a reason for that, or?
Yeah, I was confused with that. Be paid to a special fund for payment of principal and interest on loans. Is the city getting that tax?
Well, again, right now, if you look at it, we do this for every single urban renewal plan that we have. There's an ordinance because we have to have a way to capture the area and the incremental property taxes that are generated in it. So if you look at it, when this ordinance would go into effect is the minute that there's debt certified against that urban renewal area. There would only be debt certified into this area is if the city council undertook a project within this urban renewal area and wanted to collect increment property taxes on it, or if you had a development agreement, and probably first and foremost, before we would ever do that, we'd have to have incremental property taxes developed. So the simple answer would be is this ordinance would probably go into effect with incremental property taxes as soon as there's redevelopment on the Central College campus. But you have to have the mechanism in place first to be able to do that.
So if nothing gets built for 10 years, the city gets nothing.
Right, the same as what we're getting now.
This is just setting the framework right.
Sounds like it.
Like in that scenario, let's say it's year 11, there's redevelopment on the Central College campus. What this does is the ordinance is already set up in place so we could capture the incremental property taxes in the future. So the idea is the ordinance is approved by the city council at the same time you're considering the urban renewal plan, so everything's done all at once.
I have some trepidation on this because today, John, myself, and Mike, and 195 other people took a class on Senate File 2472. And one of the things I learned in that class is I have a lot to learn. And the other thing I learned is we have to be very careful right now. We have to be careful right now for two people that are up here that will have the effects put in our laps of this Senate file. It's a very complicated file. But a statement that was made by the professor was, city governments are reconsidering and restructuring urban renewal, urban revitalization, and TIFs based on Senate File 2472, which means they're taking a little bit of a reprieve right now until we understand this Senate file, because it will have ramifications, and they just drove that home with us. It's the biggest chunk of this file is in urban renewal, urban revitalization, and they're dedicating a class on July 15th, which will be taught by one of our attorneys to this. Because if we don't understand this file completely and how these urban revitalization, urban renewal projects are going to be affected by this file, this could really ding our community a lot more than we're looking at right now. So as far as the funds that will be allowed to be extrapolated from any type of TIFs or abatements, or if some of these TIFs are even going to be possible. So I kind of feel like right now, this is the cart before the horse. And I don't have a lot of comfort voting on this. And I'm sure that as an educational institution, Central College would want me to do all of my homework, and I am a grad of Central College. My father was dean of students there. I have to go through this class on the 15th, and I have reached out to multiple elected officials at the state level. I've asked them about 50 questions, and they're all getting back to me. And so I would propose, until we understand this House file, that we don't put the cart before the horse, and unless somebody knows more about it than I do.
I certainly don't know more about it than you.
Yeah, you weren't in class.
But if last meeting, when we talked about this was just putting this in place because the assumption is that urban renewals after the end of the year, enacted after the end of the year, are going to go down. So this just opens the door so that we have maximum capacity. Is that right?
I understand what you're saying. You're trying to get it in before the deadline.
Yep.
I get that. But what I'm saying is what we believe could be happening by putting this in place, in all reality, could not be happening. Mike, I'm thinking of LMI housing. I'm thinking about TIFs, and there's always that 33%. Oh, past this TIF, there's that 33%. Well, guess what? There's no 33%. So unless you understand what's happening in the future, it would be hard for me to say, okay, here's what we can do for your Central College without understanding this file. Unless, John, you've learned more than I did today.
No, I did
learned a
not.
lot.
Well, I guess I'll add, and I agree with you 100%. We can't say what we can do for Central College right now. But what we can say, if we don't do this, what I call procedural step, we'll never be able to do anything for Central College. And I think in the past, when we've created these, we already knew what was going to happen or had a pretty good idea what was going to happen. Here, we're not going to know till 2028, what the ramifications of this is going to be. And we're going to make decisions differently than what we used to. I
Well,
think.
we will need to, and that was loud and clear.
But what I think is if we avoid doing this now, we're not even going to have the opportunity to help right now is where I'm thinking on that, the importance of getting this done to at least get it in place. And then there's going to be things that we are going to delay or maybe not even do what's even proposed in that concept plan. I think until we know for sure what the ramifications of that Senate file are going to be, would be my opinion.
Effectively, Calvin, you're saying if the door is closing, then we need to get this done so that it's at least, whatever development options might be out there, we can do them because we've put in place.
Yeah, that's what I think. If we don't approve this, and we may never do anything else with it other than approve it, if those projects can't be funded appropriately by what we used to do in TIF. I agree with Lynn 100% on that. But I'm worried about if we don't do this, that we'll never have the opportunity and wish we did.
Can I add a little bit
What is the deadline?
perspective on this? This is a planning document, the urban renewal plan. It doesn't obligate the city to anything. The ordinance that you're considering this evening, this is standard course of business. It doesn't go into effect until there's actually a certification from the city. There would only be a certification from the city if there's a project, and if we work through the process, there's only going to be a project if it's approved by the city council. And so I look at this as really two steps. You have what I call the planning phase, which is the urban renewal phase that we're doing, and where the rubber hits the road, where I think you're looking at your policies as far as awarding economic development incentives, redevelopment. That's all what I call the development phase on that. And to address those issues and to make sure that we're putting as much emphasis on there and also transparency, we've established our Economic Development Committee, and hopefully this evening we'll be able to pass our policy. But in looking at this area, as far as establishing an urban renewal area, a majority of this area is tax-exempt property. Right now, there is no property taxes for a majority of the parcels here on it. And so what this simply does is establishes the framework. If there ever is property taxes generated, those incremental property taxes allows the city to recapture those taxes. And I view it as very low level of risk. I view most of the decisions that you heard today during the class are on actual development agreement deliberations and whether projects are awarded incentives in the future on it, not necessarily. And so that's was my takeaway.
John asked a question. What is the deadline on the?
Well, as far as the question is, what is the deadline for putting this framework in place?
The deadline that we have on all urban renewal areas, not just the Central College, but the deadline that we've talked about and the importance of it is the urban renewal plan would need to be passed by December 31st this year, and also the ordinance that we're considering this evening by December 31st
Okay.
of this year. And the reason for that is that's if we wish to continue to be able to collect the schools, a portion of the schools levy for urban renewal plans. So after December 31st, for any urban renewal plans that are passed, the school portion of the TIF is no longer funded in those plans. And what that does on the TIF rate, the TIF reimbursement rate, right now it's about $26 per $1,000 of taxable valuations, and be somewhere about $21 or so.
Well, since, seems to me, since we have until the end of the year, we could at least go through this training program a week from tomorrow with Iowa State and our attorney who's going to give the program, talking about urban development areas and that. And in fact, we talked about the urban development area, but we never talked about any kind of financing arrangement on it. I went back and looked at the notes. That's what I read. I mean,
So then we should be okay if this is the first reading, right?
well, yeah, well, sure.
We've got 2 more readings, so we've got 4 more weeks.
I think there's a lot of we're misjudging what we're actually doing here. Because I've heard people say, is there any money going into the fund? Nothing happens until there's redevelopment.
Yeah, I get that.
And I think the reason that we should approve it now, we set the framework in place, we're not making any promises to anybody, we're not doing anything. But Central College has spent a whole lot of money with a high-level plan for their reimagining a lot of their land. And so they just need some assurance that at some point we're going to talk about it. There's no development agreements. No one is proposing right now to develop anything. And so all of those things have to come later. This simply is establishing the urban renewal area, establishing that if city council at whenever decides to go into a development agreement and get asked for TIF reimbursements, you can decide at that point. If we don't do this first step, we're never going to have that option. So that's,
Nobody can even bring anything to the table.
yeah, we're not doing, I mean, this is the first step in a process, but that gives some assurance to potential development that the city will be a player in the game, maybe, if it makes sense. Because I agree with Lynn. We don't know the effect that the TIF changes are going to have. If you read the newspaper, all cities all over are just saying we're suspending any TIF. And we're not doing a TIF with what we're doing. We're just simply saying that if we decide to do a TIF, we can.
Right.
We're not doing it.
Right.
We can.
And Dawn, that was very well said, and thank you. But I just want clarity that people understand that the days of the, I'll call it regular TIF, or the TIF as we know it, are leaving. So that's, setting it up for Central College is fine. If Central College, and I'm sure they do, has an understanding that it's not like it used to be, and it is never going to be like it used to be. And we are, again, right, we are really looking at a belt-tightening year in 2028. So we, as a council, need to be aware of that. That's all my statement. And we all need to go to class on the 15th. You're all invited.
And it's unfortunate, in my opinion, because Pella, I think we've done, you go back to 2017, we had this massive housing shortage in Pella. The study came out in 2017, we needed 950 housing units in Pella over the next, until 2025, just to grow and maintain what we have here. I think that the city of Pella has done an outstanding job with TIF of meeting that need, or getting close. And so this type of a change in what the legislature have done is especially harmful for a community like us who have used TIF, I think, very wisely and effectively to meet a problem. We had a real problem, and our problem hasn't gone away. Our housing problem hasn't gone away. Just look at Vermeer Manufacturing. They had to go to Bondurant to build a new plant because we don't have enough people here to supply their need for, and so we have to stay diligent. And we're not doing any kind of development. There's nothing, Central College is going to continue to own the land exactly the way it is. There's no property tax coming in on their land until someone decides that they want to do a development there at some point. Then we have to consider if we're going to partner with them or not.
Yep.
And so what these do just I think establishes an urban renewal area so that if at some point City Council feels it's prudent to move forward with a developer in some kind of a TIF arrangement, we can. If we don't do this, we aren't ever going to have that option. And I'm not saying we have to do it right tonight, but I think we can. I think we need to.
Yeah, and this is the first reading, so we've got time.
Yeah.
I can go to class.
Then you can go to class.
I'll be there for you people.
So step one is to approve the urban renewal
Right.
plan,
Right.
which establishes it. Step two is just to say if at any point there's development, whatever the incremental development is, it's available for TIF money, and City Council decides at that point whether to get into a development agreement with a developer or not.
Yep. Got
Yeah,
it.
yes and no, but there are a lot more fingers in it, as I read 1C, than we're establishing an urban renewal plan. I guess that's why when I read this initially, I wasn't sure I could vote yes on this tonight. And that's why and especially after Lynn made her comments, I thought, is there a rush on this? If we have until December, or could we just table this and come back to it in 2 weeks? I still have the question, is there a rush?
We could vote yes tonight, and if new information says it's a bad idea.
We could shut it down on the second reading.
Second, or we could vote yes in 2 weeks and still vote no in 4 weeks.
Yeah, everybody comfortable with that?
I am.
I would guess some of maybe the bigger angst is with the cities that are just ready to sign a development agreement, because.
They're 2 steps beyond.
Yes, and what's going to happen after that? Here, we would at least have the advantage if 4 years down the road something happens, we should know the rules by then.
What I understand, and this wasn't from the class, but it was from discussions with senators and other people way up the food chain from me, is that some cities are just shutting down conversations altogether on TIF. They're not touching it until they dive into it. But I'm comfortable with this. I'm comfortable. And again, it's extremely important that all of us become aware of Senate File 2472 and not just take everybody else's word for it. You've got to dive into it yourself.
Mike, I suppose there'll be a registration for next Wednesday's program, like we did this time.
Mm-hmm.
You got the information, you sent it to me, and I sent it to Lynn.
Yeah, if you'd like, how this came about is Iowa State, just what the class that the council, the elected officials are talking about, is Iowa State put on a webinar on the recent property tax legislation changes. And so Councilmember Butler and I, we talk frequently, and I mentioned he had questions on it, and I said, well, there's a webinar coming up, and I sent it off to him. But what I could do on the 15th is I could send that off to the entire council. It will take, you'll have to register through Iowa State for it, but I'll get that out to the entire council.
Great.
So.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, good discussion, lots of it. Anything else? Okay, so we've had the discussion up there. Is there any member of the audience? We are still in a public hearing, so if there's any member of the audience that wants to make a comment, now's the time to do that.
So I'm still Rollins from 510 East First Street. Question is, so this all goes is what Central College wants to happen. Your TIF, your taxes, or ever how it goes, you're batting the ball around here. As in inevitable words of the old CEO says, when am I going to get my money back? How much is this going to cost me? And when am I going to get my money back on this Central College? Grand plans things, which sounds great, but how long is it going to take the city of Pella to get their money back to break even? By the time we put the sewers, we put the roads, we put the this, we put all the stuff out there, how long is it going to take to get our money back off this great wealth of taxes that we're going to get back? Anybody got that?
You won't until we have the specific project.
Yeah.
You know, that, I mean, that's impossible to even ask the question now.
I'd like to think somebody's thought of the question, how long is it going to take to get your money? Yes, John.
Right now, the only people with money in this project is Central College. They
Okay.
spent the money drawing all the drawings and all the plans and that. The city has no money in it now and will not have money in it until somebody comes forward and says, we want to build here, what can you do to help us?
Okay.
And then we'll see, and yes, I've asked that same question, how much does it take to support the new infrastructure until we get money back? So,
Yep.
yeah, I'm very interested in getting the money back. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So that's the way I understand it.
Yep, that's the question. Dave, what's another 2 weeks? We can wait and count on, do this in 2 weeks. Why do we have to get this first reading in? Why can't we wait? We got till December, the end of December, to get three readings in. Why do we have to get it in tonight? I think we ought to just table this and wait to see what comes out next week on TIF and what they make done in Des Moines and the Capitol.
Janet Wynn, 1213 Bruce Lane. Mayor DeWard, you made a comment about approving this tonight would give Central some kind of an assurance that the city was going to look at it. And, you know, to Lynn's point, why do they need assurance? If TIF is going to change, that seems like that's kind of a risky thing for Central to even take on. If you guys vote yes tonight, and that gives them assurance, that can feel like perhaps to the public that it's going to be pushed through eventually, regardless of what the public may or may not want. And I agree with the gentleman and Lynn's comments. What's wrong with shelving it for 2 weeks? You guys all need to take a class, it sounds like. And perhaps the public, we should be there too. I just don't see the problem with shelving it for 2 weeks. But I do have that concern and perhaps public perception of it gives Central some assurance. So, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Support.
Manstra, Hopkins, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Vanstra.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Carlstone.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to the resolution number 7092 entitled Resolution Determining an Area of the City to be a Blighted and Economic Development Area and that the rehabilitation, conservation, redevelopment, development or a combination thereof of such area is necessary in the interest of the public health, safety, or welfare of the residents of the city, designating such area as appropriate for urban renewal projects and adopting the Imagine More Community Urban Renewal Plan. Assume there's nothing to add. Can I get a motion for approval? Hopkins,
Support.
Vanstra. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Vanstra.
Yes.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Carlstone.
Yes.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to ordinance number 1090 entitled An Ordinance Providing that General Property Tax Levied and Collected Each Year on All Property Located Within the Imagine More Community Urban Renewal Area in the City of Pella, County of Marion, State of Iowa, by and for the benefit of the State of Iowa, City of Pella, County of Marion, Pella Community School District, and other taxing districts be paid to a special fund for payment of principal and interest on loans. Monies advanced to and indebtedness, including bonds issued or to be issued, incurred by the city in connection with the Imagine More Community Urban Renewal Area, the Imagine More Community Urban Renewal Plan. This is the first reading. Do I have a motion for approval?
Support.
Hopkins, Carlstone, any discussion?
I would just, for the comfort of the public, say that this is the first reading. We have to do 2 more. Whatever we learn in the next week or 2, we can still vote no.
Yep.
So this is just the way this works.
Yep.
That's why there's 3 readings.
Right, and,
That's why there's, 3 readings, right.
and
There's 3 readings.
I agree with you, John, and I was going to say that same thing. This is the beauty of the 3 readings. Some might look at it as redundant, but this gives the public time. This is your time now. And this is where you reach out to your elected officials. This is where you let people know how you feel about things. You educate yourself. And I would also make a suggestion that there be no waiving of readings and no adopting prematurely.
Right.
That all 3 readings need to stand, because this is super important with this new House file. And so stay tuned, come to the next meeting, and we'll have all kinds of cool stuff to teach you.
Okay,
And I'd say one more thing. Ward 2 is having a meeting next Tuesday night at the Boss Landon. Please come. You don't have to live in Ward 2, just come. I want to hear from you on this issue and a few others. Got my advertising in.
Are you going to have treats?
Treats?
Yeah.
Oh.
say
We'll have
free food and you'll have a house.
Well, I know better than that.
All right, any other discussion? All right, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Carlstone,
Yes.
Van Strylen,
Yes.
Vanstra,
Yes.
Vanderhorst,
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to resolution number 7093, entitled Resolution Approving Project Management Administration Policy for the Community Center Renovation Project. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to explain this item. And as Mayor DeWard stated, what we're looking to do is appoint an administrative committee for the community center renovation project. And the purpose of this committee is really to keep the project on course when we talk about the community center renovation. It's roughly about an $8 million project all in for the city of Pella. And we anticipate when you talk about the actual renovation of the building that there's going to be several smaller change orders on this as well. So this committee, what's envisioned is that it would function very similar to our committee that we've established for the Pella Rec Center on this as well, where we have an administrative committee. So very similar in nature. And what this would be is the chairperson of this committee would be Councilmember Dave Hopkins. It would also be the other 2 members on the committee would be Mr. Bob Beanstra, who is the city's engineer on a lot of projects that we have, and he would serve as the project representative on this. And Bob's doing a great job, by the way, on the rec center as well. And then we have our community services director, Spencer Winsenreed. So what would happen and how this functions is very similar to what we have on the rec center for these smaller change orders. In fact, the terms are about the same. And when we define a small change orders, that would be change orders in the single change order up to the amount of $20,000. And the committee would have ultimate authority of up to $100,000 before they would have to come back and seek additional authorization from the city council. But how the smaller change orders and how the rec center committee works is we review the smaller change orders and it takes unanimous approval by the committee. So if anything is ever not unanimous, that's when it would come back even to the council, no matter what the size of the change order is. What that's really done with the rec center is it's helped keep that project on course, because there's lots of things that come up during construction projects on it. And we can respond back to the contractor in a very timely manner on it. So we'd like to do the same thing for the community center as well. It is important to note that asbestos change orders are not subject to the cumulative limit as well. And that's because there's an allowance that we have under the contract as well. So with that, and then what we'll have is very simply monthly reporting on this as well, where Bob Deanster will prepare a monthly report of the construction project on the project for the council on it. So with this, Mr. Mayor, we're looking to establish the administrative committee for the community center.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support.
Brander, Horst, Van Strylen, discussion?
I suppose we don't have much of an idea how much asbestos there really is in that building. Could be quite a bit. Built, was it 1919 or something it was built?
Yeah, and talking to Bob on this, what we have is the contractor has an allowance in the contract for $85,000 on it. We also did a site, what I would call a site survey of asbestos before the contract is let, and that was performed by Shive Hattery, and all the contractors bid on it. So hopefully they were able to find where the asbestos was in the building and identify it all, but there's always a possibility that there may be additional areas once you get into construction as well, Mr. Van Strylen. So there is a chance that there may be additional asbestos that we did not uncover during the preliminary, I'd call inspection survey for asbestos on the building.
That's why we have a rather large contingency on this project.
Yeah.
Who knows what we might find in starting to tear that building apart on the inside.
It's a big building.
Anything else? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Brander Horst.
Yes.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Vanstra.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Carlstone.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Motion passed. Resolution number 7094, entitled Resolution Accepting Public Improvements for Prairie Ridge West Subdivision. Mike.
I guess, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to explain this item that we have, and I believe we don't have a map of the improvements that we have up here, but recently we've approved a new development that would be Prairie Ridge West, and so this would be the development that's directly north. If you were to go to T15 in Washington Street, head north on there, we have a new development on there as well. And so what we have with the Prairie Ridge West subdivision is approximately another 93 residential lots on there. What this resolution would do was accept the public improvements that have been built to the city specifications on there, and we have an engineer certification for it as well. So these improvements have been inspected. They've been constructed according to city specs. What this does is formally accepts these improvements as for city assets. I would like to mention, when we look at the development in the 93 lots and all the development that's occurred at the city of Pella, it is important to note that we have talked about the Washington Street traffic study. In fact, we were going to have a policy and planning session tonight on that study. We have a proposal by Mr. Bob Deanster to perform that corridor study that would look at the traffic on Washington Street. I believe the corridor extends from this new development that we have on the western edge of town all the way on Washington Street to the Hazel Street intersection that we had. We had to back it up for 2 weeks because we had some staff, actually we had some staff members that took some vacation time, so which is a good thing. They needed the break. So that project got delayed, or that discussion got delayed 2 weeks. We anticipate that'll be back on the docket on July 21st, that corridor study as well. So again, but what we're doing with this resolution is we're accepting the improvements that have been constructed to city standard on it as well, so for this new development. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions the council may have on this item.
All right, thanks, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
Support.
Hopkins, Van Strylen, any discussion?
I have a comment. The inspecting engineering team is associated with ATI, and so that doesn't seem to me to be best practice for us to have related parties inspecting work that the other party did.
Yeah, part of the inspection process, we have a certified engineer from McClure Engineering that states the improvements were constructed in accordance to city standards. In addition, Wolf, if you could also talk about it, but we also had our superintendents and our public works staff that went out and performed inspections on the assets as well. So Wolf, if you could please help me out on that.
Surely, yes. We, with all new developments, before we bring them to the council for acceptance, we go out and make sure that things are done properly. Everything was indeed designed and built according to SUDAS standards. Those are the standards that we use and most cities in Iowa do use. So we checked, we made sure we had a punch list with them about corrections they needed to make, and they have gone through and made those changes. So yes, there is an engineer's letter, but in addition, we also go out and look ourselves. It's, what is it? Measure twice and cut once. We try and do the same thing here.
For appearances, I think it would be better to split that apart.
I would agree with John.
Yeah, I do too. Transparency.
Okay, anything else? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Vanstra.
Yes.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Carlstone.
Yes. Motion passed. Resolution number 7095 entitled Resolution Approving and Adopting an Economic Development and Redevelopment Incentive Policy. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, once again, I'd like to direct everyone's attention to the big board, and this is the discussion on the city's proposed economic development incentive policy. It is important to note this is the same policy we discussed on June 16th of this year during policy and planning, and council directed staff to place this item for formal consideration, which approval of this resolution would approve the city's policy. And basically what this policy is intended to do is establish the criteria or the framework for which the city would give projects that would be eligible under the project incentives for this as well. And also, I think it serves as two things. It gives direction and framework to the developers. It also requests a significant amount of information if you look at this in conjunction with the application that we included with the policy as well. But again, the thought is, when you look at this from a developer standpoint, this lays out the council priorities. It also talks about the criteria when incentives would be considered for projects. And it also requests information from the developers, and not all necessarily financial information, but in addition, when we talk about public benefit of projects as well, it will require some thought from developers in the future. This, in conjunction with the Economic Development Review Committee, which this policy formally establishes as well, with it is all in an effort to provide greater transparency in the future when we consider economic development incentives. And I believe there was a few comments earlier this evening about cities reconsidering TIF policies, incentive policies. This is at the heart of the matter, is our policy. And I view, if we're going to be reconsidering our economic development policies, the very first thing we need to have is an agreed upon policy, and that's what we're trying to do this evening. So a lot of good discussions on that matter, but that really hits at the heart of it, because this deals directly with proposed development agreements. And so what the policy does is establishes the criteria when you would consider economic development incentives, establishes the eligible projects, and then it also establishes the framework for coming to a decision, which means staff homework, staff due diligence, reporting to an economic development review committee, consider with the subcommittee of the council, and make that committee making a formal recommendation to the city council as well. But again, I want to emphasize, despite all that, nothing gets approved unless it's approved by the full council on development agreements. So again, a lot of this stuff we've done in the past, but this just formalizes what we've done in the past, and it's also in an effort to provide greater transparency to the public. So with that, Mr. Mayor, that concludes the staff presentation. Be more than happy to answer any questions the council may have on this item.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
Support.
Hopkins, Branderhorst, any discussion?
Just a comment, Mike, I really like that separate page in there, that's the public benefit statement that came
Yes.
from the developer. So then that's where you separate the wheat from the chaff a little bit, you know, where that's coming through. I was a little surprised to see that. I specifically looked to see, to make sure the project meshed with our comprehensive plan. I didn't see that specifically listed, but it's really indirectly listed because it has to go through P&Z. And isn't that their job then to do that?
Yeah, the reason we didn't put that in, and that's an excellent point. If you recall earlier this evening when we talked about what's the first step in the development process where you would actually be able to award economic development incentives, all these projects would have to be located within an urban renewal area. And to be in an urban renewal area, the very first step that occurs is a review by the Planning and Zoning Commission that the urban renewal plan conforms with the city's comprehensive plan. So it's somewhat redundant to say to line with the city's comprehensive plan on it. So
Okay, makes sense.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Carlstone.
Yes.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Vanstra.
Yes.
Motion passed. I get a motion for approval of abstract of bills number 22002.
Move to approve and issue warrants.
Branderhorst, Hopkins, any discussion or questions? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Vanstra.
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Carlstone.
Yes. Motion passed. Any council member have any other business you'd like to have addressed this evening?
I have two quick things. Trent, this is for you.
Trevor.
Trevor, I'm sorry. It's a T, I got that one. I was so excited when you got up and started talking about the relationship between the council and your committee. And I walk around with this black notebook, and it has a lot of things in there that I think someday I'm going to need this when I'm in chambers. And I have the Code of Ordinances for Pella, Iowa, and it specifically states the relationship between your committee and the council. And then I'd like you to have this. I mean, you might think, well, I don't want it, but I want you to have it because a lot of the work, we are to reach out to you. That is part of being elected. And you'll see there are 8 bullet points in here that specifically mandate us to get information from you. So you can get it now or later, but see me with my black notebook, you could be next to get something. Yes. And then I wanted to do a shout out to our electrical company, our electrical department on the hottest day of the year. All of a sudden my phone started to explode, and it wasn't because I had it in a charger that was too strong for my phone. It was because we had a large power outage. And that department had everybody back up and going on the hottest day of the year in under an hour. And I just want to give them a huge shout out because that's not easy. And it took a big swatch of Ward 1 out. So say hello and thank you to our electrical department next time you see those guys. So, and if you would extend that, Mike,
Sure.
I'd
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. Anyone else? All right, any member of the public have any other business you'd like to address the council with this evening? If so, please come forward to that microphone, state your name and address, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Adjourn to a policy and planning. Item 1, revisit the discussion regarding the intersection of Oskaloosa Street and Eagle Lane, 240th Place. So this obviously is I put this on the agenda. I was in Washington, D.C. the night that, or I was on my way there basically, the night that you guys had your discussion about that intersection and the potential. So I got to my hotel just in time to hear that discussion. I listened in. It's pretty hard to get involved in the discussion over the phone, so I chose to just listen. And so a couple things that I was a little bit disappointed in the conversation. I felt like the idea of a roundabout was dismissed pretty quickly. And so Harold, you talked a lot about European. I've traveled pretty extensively in a few European countries, Ireland, Scotland, and that's all they have is roundabouts. I don't see any traffic backups around roundabouts. The other thing, if you observe the Des Moines and the suburbs, not only is that area of Iowa the fastest growing part of Iowa, but nationally, that whole area, our Des Moines and our suburbs, are one of the fastest growing sections of the entire United States of America. And if you go to Johnston, you go to Waukee, you go to Ankeny, there are a lot of roundabouts. And I know we had engineers. There were several advantages to roundabouts. I personally believe they are the best traffic solution to keep traffic moving. Stoplights create backups, create long lines. Roundabouts keep traffic moving. I've witnessed a couple places. I've spent extensive time over the last 21 years in Tegucigalpa, Honduras, which is a big city, 1.2 million people with a whole lot of traffic. There was this one intersection that for the first 15 years that I went was the most massive traffic jam you can't imagine. Cars pointing every direction. It'd take you 45 minutes to get through there. They put a roundabout on that intersection about 5 years ago, and there is no traffic backup. And all of the traffic of the city comes to that spot. So I've witnessed it firsthand, what roundabouts do. So I really think we should consider the roundabout as more of a viable option. I thought that the discussion about some extra cost, extra right-of-way, was somewhat short-sighted, and here's why. If you look up there, what you see up there is a diagram that is in the 2014 comprehensive plan. So that was 12 years ago when the comprehensive plan was done. And you can see where old Oskaloosa Street with the new University Street. So that was that many years ago that there was a concept for a housing development there. So if anyone thinks that that intersection is not going to become very busy, please give me the evidence as to why you think it won't. When you look at the development out on the west side of town, with the new rec center, with University Street, development is going to follow in a big way into that area of our city. So we need to be thinking long-term about a traffic solution for that area of our community. And I think the next slide, Mandy, I think the next slide shows the green area there. That whole section there is a cornfield right now. That was purchased a few years ago by ATI. The south half, the south parcels there have been sold off, some to PPI, some to a group of Pella Christian supporters, just grabbing land for maybe future. But those two green areas are potential commercial development areas right now, which I believe is going to be developed in the very near future. And so I think we need to really think long-term about this intersection. I heard about truck traffic. I really don't understand why there would be very much truck traffic on that road. If you talk about a Vermeer, you talked about Vermeer, any truck driver from Vermeer is going to try to get to the 4-lane as fast as possible if they have a load. So there's a county highway right on the east side of Vermeer that they can drive down and get on that 4-lane and go whatever direction they need to go. And in fact, I think with the development of the 63 bypass around the west side of Oskaloosa and hooking back up, I think when I hear Vermeer hate going west out of town on that curves and sharp turns to get to Interstate 80, I really think that they will move to going down 163, getting that bypass, getting back on 63 first. But, but I really don't see a lot of truck traffic here. The only vehicles I can see, bigger vehicles, will be school buses. And if you look at the advantages or where people are putting roundabouts, they're putting them by schools because of the traffic that the students, and so I really think that we'd have to buy a little more right-of-way. We'd spend a little bit more money than just a straight intersection. There's going to have to be stoplights put up eventually there if we don't do it right now, because the traffic is going to increase significantly. So obviously, you guys need to support it, to consider it. I have no way I can push it through without your support. So if there's no appetite for it, if there's not 4 of you that want to consider a roundabout, then we don't consider it. But I really think that it would be the wisest solution to what's going to become an incredibly busy incredibly busy intersection. It's fairly busy now, but with the rec center and the development that's going to happen, I think it'll become a very busy intersection. So there's my 2 cents.
Well, one of the things and I came pretty much uncommitted, and I shouldn't say I don't care, but it doesn't make that big. I was interested in Harold, that he said he's seen both good ones and bad ones, in his there. I don't have that experience. When the engineer was talking about what number justify a roundabout, and then he asked what it was here, there's quite a big of a gap. Now, what was never discussed, I don't think, what number could be there. I don't know if that was, do you remember if that was part of our
Population?
No, traffic counts. Because the traffic count right now was quite a ways from the number he said that it would be, but I forget the gap, and I don't think there's any predictions done what that could be 5 years from now. But the gap was pretty big right now, if I remembered right.
Well, I agree.
The
I think it is.
population gap was big as well.
Yeah.
Populations of 22,000
Yep.
is when communities should consider.
Yeah, I don't remember that, because like Oskaloosa wouldn't have that.
Yeah.
Right. It's quite interesting that right after this in the news, Urbandale was talking about the fact that their accident rate had gone up very greatly in, what was it, the last 8 months with their roundabouts, and they were wondering if they should have done it. And,
It's hard to go through a roundabout when you're texting.
But, yeah.
I guess I look at this and I consider myself an expert on truck traffic on Oskaloosa Street because I live on Oskaloosa Street. And the truck traffic on Oskaloosa Street can be extreme, but the hours are 5 a.m. to noon. Why? Because they want to get their loads out and dropped and home to their families. So when I see a study being done from 3 to 4, and we're looking at a roundabout, which is also going to be placed on a farm to market road, which this is, it's a farm to market road, which means by right, our tractors pulling their grain bins have a right to use this road. I think to myself, I think if we're looking for traffic solutions and we are looking at the budgetary restraints that we're facing in the future, this money would be better served on the east or the west side of town. Any savings we can make to help the pedestrian and traffic solution better on that side of town. I think we have to grab that. Is there truck traffic on Oskaloosa? Yes, there is. Come to my house. I'll even give you a cup of coffee and you can see it. Do we need to be cognizant of a farm to market road? Yes, we do. Is a part of that road county? Yes, it is. A half mile from where the proposed roundabout is county land. We don't have the population for it. So my mind has not changed from where it was 2 weeks ago. But the one thing I will add, if we're going to do something, please, let's do it over here.
Probably 10 years ago, St. Mary's had money for us to hard surface that road. And it would have been done if the county had come through, There's that road, and as we say, there are bike paths, again, on Washington Street. So if we're gonna spend $250,000, I agree, we should do it on Washington Street, or what is it, 218th place, or I would sooner spend $250,000 more places than putting in a roundabout there. This is never gonna be a Council Bluffs or a Boston or a Rotterdam.
Did you say Rotterdam?
Rotterdam.
Well, I said, if you tell me that it's not going to develop the way the 2014 comprehensive plan showed, Give me evidence why it's not gonna.
Well, it
Look
might-
what's happening out here.
It might develop,
We started a development, and in 3 years, there were 93 lots sold and 93 houses built. There's 20 basements already dug in phase 2 of, suddenly is Pella gonna quit growing? You don't think that area is gonna develop a housing and commercial area?
it's going to
Give me
develop.
evidence that
But hey-
tells you why it won't.
But I live in Pella, Iowa. I used to live in the River Valley. I can wait a little bit. This is Pella. This isn't the River Valley. This isn't Rotterdam. We can wait a few seconds.
What are we waiting for? I'm just saying demand exists.
But the demand
And
is
it's
out there.
it's-
That's where the current.
You don't think it's gonna develop out there?
Yeah, but
You know
it's,
what? We have time for that. We have time for that.
I'm just asking, you don't think it's gonna develop with the new road in and the rec center? You don't think it's gonna develop?
Drive a combine around that roundabout once.
I think that what you're, I think our short-sightedness would come not in talking about the future of that area. Where our short-sightedness comes right now is thinking that there is not going to be a catastrophic accident on Washington Street. That is short-sighted. This right here is, I hope in the future we can do it as the demand is merited.
I wonder, Lynn,
Yes.
we have two different discussions here. One is we're doing the either or
Right.
discussion. If there's an assumption to be made, if we spend money here, we can't there. So that's one discussion that's going on. The second is, I think what I hear the mayor saying is he's seen roundabouts move traffic efficiently. And what I hear you saying is that may be true, but are they the best for big equipment, big
And
trucks?
farm-to-market
Farm,
roads.
yeah. So I think the discussion here, maybe, this is just me saying, maybe we're arguing two different points. One is about what's the most efficient way to move traffic, and one's about what is the easiest type of intersection to move big equipment through. And those are, both need to be weighed and looked at and evaluated, and probably, like you said, Lynn, at 5 a.m.
Yeah, not two people with a clicker in their hand for 1 hour counting traffic. I mean,
Yeah.
we do studies all the time and spend a lot of money and get a lot of good information, but I just feel like this is flawed. And my opinion hasn't changed. It wasn't that I didn't vote on a different style of intersection. I voted on the turning lane. I like that. I think it's great. I think it will do what we needed to do at the time that we needed to do it.
And none of us voted, we just discussed.
But the consensus, and it's even in the minutes, the consensus was unanimous.
Yeah.
I think that's an important fact for us all to know. Nobody was here saying, oh, you're short-sighted or you're not looking at this. We all liked that plan. I'm just sticking up for what I voted for.
It appears that way.
See, I think I heard the number of like 10,000, if you had 10,000 vehicles a day through that intersection, it might be a good thing. I think we're a long way from that.
Here's what I hope, John. Even if we do the plan that we discussed 2
Yeah.
weeks ago,
Yeah.
I hope that eventually we have 10,000 vehicles a day.
Well,
So do I.
And
and
then
then-
we have to put in, and
So
we've
do
got
I.
the money for it.
God
Yeah.
bless it.
by
I think
that time, the land will be in somebody else's hands. It might be easier. Or the developers out there will be more interested
Or
in
more difficult.
making it more
Have to put a
attractive.
building there.
Well, either way, easier, more difficult.
Last week's, or 2 weeks ago, presentation, the traffic counts that were issued here, if I'm interpreting the diagram correctly, there are 3 different ADT studies there, one in 2022 from the north or southbound, I guess, and westbound. 2014 for eastbound, and then northbound was an 06 study. Those seem, am I interpreting that data right? That those are when those counts were done?
We do have our engineer here, Mr. Brad Udemark from Garden and Associates, to answer that question.
Sure, no problem. In that 3 to 4 o'clock hour, which was considered to be the peak traffic flow, maybe not the peak truck traffic flow, but the peak traffic flow through that intersection. A four-way stop intersection.
This diagram was?
Correct.
Yep.
Is considered to be good to about 1,200 vehicles per hour, and right now we're at about half of that through that intersection. So, yeah, I think that answers a couple of the questions that I heard.
Can you answer Lynn's population question? Because I did not remember that discussion.
I don't think that came from me.
Okay, might have been some research I did.
Yeah.
Or too much water.
No, not that.
Is that 3 to 4 p.m. data wire across the road kind of thing? Or is that somebody?
No, that's somebody there on site watching.
Is there any way to extrapolate that out 2 years, 5 years, if indeed it fills in around the rec center? Let's say there's 100 units. Okay, that's going to increase X percent. Okay, there's 200 units. That's going to increase X percent. One thing, short-sighted and all, Dave, you kind of alluded to this, hoping that in, 2 years or whatever, we get to say, and now we got to tear this brand new concrete up and put in 4 lanes with, whatever and all this. Is there any way to project? Our rates are obviously bucking the system as far as Iowa predictions for a small town or any town short of West Des Moines. Sure, there's a mathematical formulation to say if these houses come out there with 2 cars and 1 utility vehicle per household, this is the traffic going through there,
Yeah, I think the tough part for us would be, you look at the west side of town, you look at the east side of town, when's the last time there's been an expansion on the east side of town? And there are a few factors that come into play on that. So will it be next year? Will it be 20 years from now that opens up? It's hard for us to make that guess, I guess, so.
I think my big concern about being too overly conservative and short-sighted would be the acquisition of the needed ground for an improvement in the future. There's no better time to call in than when nothing's on it. But this seems to be ripe for that. I don't disagree that there's 2 postures to take. One is wait and see, which in my 5 years in this has been the far more expensive way to do it. Or we'd be proactive and say, this is the next step, everyone. And there's a lot going on that's about to be unveiled in a year. There's ground on that exit available for development. I think we might be kicking ourselves in short order that we didn't at least think through the idea of acquiring the easements or ground to consider it down the road. That intersection is terrible, needs to be done something with sooner rather than later, but to fall into this tried and true, it's what we know and a safe decision while missing the opportunity for a better decision down the road, I think is unfortunately short-sighted. I wasn't able to make much of the discussion on it or the presentation, so I apologize for that. I sat down for the end of it, but I think this is a great opportunity for it. I've never driven a combine. You probably wouldn't want me driving a combine through that intersection with straight roads. So I understand there's complications from the big equipment, from the snowplow, from the ag. uses, but I know there's tremendously safer. There might be more fender benders, but they're low speeds. That's obviously my bent is towards safety. There's a ton of kids in that intersection every day. We talked about catastrophic on Washington. I don't know which one you're talking about. There's a lot of opportunities for danger on Washington.
Yes.
But this is one that, you know, a quarter of the cars through there at these high times are our future. So that bothers me. And safety seems to be something that would be wise there as a preemptive. But so now, and nothing else, I know we've talked a lot about future here with even at our new plan discussion, but land acquisition is best when it's not developed upon.
So at the minimum,
Think through it further.
whatever we did, we should, I mean, for whatever it would take to get some of these small pieces that need to be acquired.
Yeah.
The minimum amount of sense, just whatever direction we went.
Or if you stay straight, what does a big right turn arc need around to the north, from the east to the north, or, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I'm confident we can design an effective intersection either way, as a roundabout or as a four-way stop. It feels like the roundabout is kind of the third rail, and so we just need to know what your direction is.
When are we redoing this? Next year?
I think we had, we've talked about this would have to be, correct me if I'm wrong, Wolf and Brad, this would have to be conducted through the DOT since we're using federal funds on it, so we'd have to put your bed letting. Means that we're probably looking at construction season, and Brad, don't mean to push you, but we have it tentatively planned for 27 construction.
Correct. That means with the swap funds that are involved, it would have to be, check plans would have to be turned to the DOT by September. So we
So the
are,
engineering's got to get done.
correct.
All right, well, I don't feel like there's been any movement in any direction, so whatever the thought process was coming out of the last meeting, I think we stick with it. All right, any comments on upcoming council items?
Just a few things to put into perspective that we have up here. We have some rough dates on a few of these items. I mentioned earlier that Mr. Bob Veenstra is going to be here on July 21st, and we'll actually have two policy and planning sessions with him. One of them is going to be on the proposed stormwater management plan for the city, or analysis that Bob's firm conducted for that. We'll also have on there the Washington Street traffic assessment analysis that we're proposing with Bob's firm as well. So that's on the 21st on this is in this. Some of these items are still moving on here. I think tentatively we have, recently the library has conducted a space analysis of their facility. But we have that tentatively scheduled for August 4th to discuss with the city council. As far as the parks master plan, that will likely be either in the second meeting in August or early September on that as well. And so a few of these other items still dependent on some committee work that we're in the process of doing. So that's a rough schedule, but Mayor.
So the Parks Master Plan, I went to a meeting out at Boss Landing a couple months ago with the, wasn't trails part of that?
Yes.
So there is some work being done on a bike trail from the west side of Pella into town, right?
That is correct. That was one of the major components of this analysis. Now there's some, we'll be talking about this, a few of these projects are overlapping and more to come on that, but we do have proposed trail route that we have, and just to.
Because I think, earlier in the meeting, it sounded like nobody was even thinking about traffic. Well, that's not true. I think the parks plan, because getting either a bike trail or getting a bike trail from that area into town would solve a whole lot of problems. And so to say that no one's thinking about it is just not true. It's in the scope of work for the parks plan is how to get a trail from that area into town. Now, I do know in some discussions there's some real issues related to the airport with a trail coming from there. So stay tuned.
Yep.
It's not that no one's doing anything about it. We all realize, I see the bikes going across that bridge. I see the people walking across that bridge. It's not safe, it's not good, but it's not that we don't recognize that and we're not working on that. It is being worked on, and there are some real issues finding a route that works. So we can do it, but there are some real issues.
I
So
believe
don't,
that.
it's not that no
Above
one's
ground
thinking
route.
about it and
Above
not
ground
doing
route.
anything.
Above ground route.
Certainly.
Yeah, that trail would have to go through the runway protection zone. There's no way of avoiding that, but I was thinking about that, if you had a light that the airport could turn on when a plane's gonna take off and everybody stops there, because there's not that much,
There may be solutions.
there's not that much
I hope
traffic
there
on it.
is,
Yeah,
because it's very important.
yeah,
Yeah, like the light they have in the urban areas as to when you can get on the interstate.
right,
I
yeah,
don't,
yeah.
I don't think an option is gonna be to widen the overpass
No.
No, no,
and create a bike lane there. So
No.
we're gonna have to figure out a way, but
yeah.
it's
Well,
not
then-
that everybody doesn't realize what we need, and we're working on it.
Well, that
As
railroad
soon as a
bridges,
solution can be
Yeah.
brought forward, I think we'll act on it. So,
Perfect.
okay.
all right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So made.
Manstra, Hopkins, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Vanstra.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Carlstone.
Yes.
Van Stryland.
Yes.
We are adjourned.